Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching Today's Business with me, David Ubabodeke. Yes, it's that time where we delve into our interview segment of the show. Now, data shows that Nigeria alone exports about 5 tons of smoked fish per month. Yes, smoked fish per month. And yet, this sector, which provides nutrients to the nation, boosts employment and exports, is most times not treated with the level of importance that it deserves. Our correspondent, Mercy Frank, chats with the president of the Nigerian chapter of the African Women Fish Processors and Traders Network, Olufumilola Shelika, and she shares the challenges players in the sector face, especially as a result of the global health crisis and the hopes they have for the African continental free trade area. Take a listen.
We had a lot of losses because the fishes that were being caught, they could not sell to anyone. So, and basically most of the time, part of the post-harvest losses that we normally have, once they get their catches and they can't sell off, they bury it. And you know what that means? At the time it decays, it becomes like a pollution in that environment already. That's a pandemic on its own. So you can imagine not now having to be able to sell during the pandemic, the restrictions of movement and the likes. It wasn't really good for business. Most of them were actually to ground zero. So they could only smoke them, but they couldn't even sell because of the poor quality or the technologies being used. So those products could not even stay. Their shelf life wasn't more than maybe 3 4 days, and it gets spoiled too. So at that time business was really really bad for those women, and also even for us. Even though most people believe during COVID-19, oh, the people in the food industry were making it, it was at that beginning nobody could really think of how to go about it. And at the time we got dispatch riders to help you deliver and all. How do you even get the raw materials? How do you get the products from those people, that your suppliers, before you can even process and deliver? So it was a time for us to reconsider and try to re-strategize how to get better in what we're doing in our businesses. Post COVID now, it's still in the works because everything is not yet normalized. Because now, during COVID-19, a whole lot of people got into that business. So now there's been a lot of struggle. There's so many people in the business, and we're all struggling for that little bit. The hike in price and so many things have affected it. Those that are into aquaculturing, the price in feed. If you buy a bag of feed today at 5,000, I guarantee you by the time you go there in 2 days' time, you're buying it 5,500. So you can't really keep up. It affected the prices. You can't put a tag to your product. So it did a lot of, I don't want to use the word harm, but it was a new learning curve for every single one of us.
So, talk to us about ease of doing business, putting into consideration capital, putting into consideration infrastructure that aids promoting small businesses in the country.
Really, it's actually been more harder for them because without the necessary infrastructure in place, they can't thrive. The business cannot thrive. And transportation is more of a major thing for them because they could only get as far as they can and still be at the mercy of the middleman. You talked about how do they get empowered or to get by. I wouldn't lie to you, it was really tough. During the pandemic, I had to do more of personal loans to people, or personal grants, more like, because unfortunately there was so much data harvesting at that time. We had a lot of agencies asking us to get them their details, people that they could help, and the likes of it. But we realized at the end of the day that they were just harvesting data because nothing ever came by afterwards. And it was so heart wrenching for me, and that's why I had to go out of my way from my own personal funds. I had to give as the bit that I could because really, obviously, these people were suffering. So they got good catch, but unfortunately, they couldn't sell. They couldn't do anything to them. So they couldn't preserve them. They couldn't transport them. So it all went to waste. Because how much of it are they going to eat? So at that time, We didn't really see, yes, there were a lot of interventions going on, but they couldn't access it. Even if I have to fill out the forms for them, I needed information from them to do that.
Did any of your members get access to any of the loans that were made available by the government, by the federal government, CBN, during the pandemic and even after then?
I think a few of them, but maybe like a 2% of those that are not in the smaller scale fisheries, but those in aquaculture, those that can really go through filling out the forms and the likes of it. Yeah, I think like 2% of them might have gotten it. So that's just the information I have. That's the data I have. Maybe like 2% of them got it.
How far has the issue of preservation, how far has the conversation gone in Nigeria?
Okay, infrastructure right now, they're not in place. But just like my association, that's one of the things that we're fighting. That's one of the things we're working on. Trying to get the government, to get international bodies, to get grants that could help these people get their cold chain in place. Because once they have a cold chain, everybody wouldn't be in a rush to want to sell off the same day. They could take their time before they process it. I've been opportune to visit some other African countries, and I've seen the modalities that are being put in place for them. They can sun dry, they can salt dry. There are other ways at which they could achieve the same purpose. But a cold chain in place, like the number one, and then giving them a better technology, like a smoke and clean, that is more acceptable, that will make their products have a longer shelf life. Having been trained and equipped on how to get that done, how to process them by taking out all the guts and everything that is in it that could make it go rancid in shorter time. So that is something that would also help them being put in place. The training, that's capacity building, having the major infrastructure in place, a cold chain, and also having them have a stable market, having to have a stable pricing. We have a price control. That's the only way we can get that. But if those infrastructure are not in place, we can't get a pricing system. We can't get a pricing. We can't get an equal price being circulated. I know a couple of other products get that. I know for poultry, I know they have a unified price. I know for eggs, yes, they have a unified price. But in fisheries and aquaculture, there's no unified price per se. That is why you see a malam sell it at a particular price. You will see somebody that uses a modern technology will sell at a different price. So when that happens, we have a unification. When we have better infrastructure in place to aid us to work towards having that. So
The AFCFTA is here, it's up and running. Is Nigeria, as the big brother of Africa, well positioned to ensure that they do not lose out? Are they at an advantageous position, or are they making any moves to ensure that they benefit hugely from the trade agreement?
Big Brother is just in court. That's what I can tell you now. Because right now, other African countries are doing way so well. I was opportune to be in Uganda in 2019, November, and we had a tour. And at their landing sites, around their the sea line, they had two parts. They already have a standard exporting range. And then on the other side is their local source. Even their local sourcing is actually, it's more, I don't want to say prettier, but very accessible and organized compared to what we have here. So the government knows what they could get, what fish is generating for them. That's why they were willing to invest in building a proper structure for their exports. You see their refrigerated vans on standby, loading it up. And from my findings, every night, those trucks go to Kenya, where from there it's exported to any other country around there. And even from there, the other value chains, there's a part of the fish that is taken out that is used for pharmaceutical products. All that is done before they're being loaded into the van. So really, I would tell you we still have a long way to go. But I know we're making progress on a daily basis. I wouldn't say we're on ground zero. More efforts are coming in now as we get aquaculture and fisheries in Nigeria. I think they're recognizing it and they're working hard on how we want to put the aquaculture and fisheries sector upfront under this agreement so that people don't just come and dump what they come with from their own countries out here. So when we have standards, when we work on standards, and that's why this inauguration is coming up at this time, so that we can now empower those women, the small-scale fishermen and fisherwomen, on how they need to process their fish to meet up those standards, how they need to preserve their fish to meet the standards of these other countries, so that we could benefit from this agreement, whereby it won't be a dumping site, but would also export what we have and make a sale out of it.
In one sentence, what are your hopes for all fishnet in Nigeria and Africa?
My hopes for AWFISHNET is one major thing, just like our slogan says, we move the trade on. That is, we're not stopping on our horse until everybody gets on that ride and know that standard is key. We need to stop poisoning ourselves. We need to take our health in our hands. We need to take our life in our hands, whereby determining taking junk or taking poison as, oh, this is something I just have to take. But that at the end, by 2030, poverty would have been put in half and more protein will be put on tables for people, and not just proteins, but standard protein will be put on tables.
So you held an event just yesterday. What is it about?
It's the inauguration of the chapter of African Women Fish Processors and Traders Network, which is a continental body, which was to be established in the 52 nations, member states of the African Union. And that came up in 2017 at a cumulative workshop that was held at Tanzania. And they thought women are not being recognized in that space of processing and trading, because when the men go on the sea and bring back the fish, it's the women that are processing it. And we realized that it was a general issue in all the member states that were present. And so we were all encouraged to go back, implored more like, to go back to our countries and make sure we come up with these associations whereby the voices of women could be heard. And majorly, for us to be able to cascade down the experience and knowledge that we have, and to place us on the map whereby our products can be of international grade, could be acceptable in the international space too.
Thank you so much for the conversation. It was enlightening. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for your time.